Proposition 1 violates federal IRS law in regards to churches and schools and nonprofits. It violates your tax exempt status. It violates the homestead exemption for senior citizens. You're using ambiguous language that the average voter cannot understand. For example, the pay-as-you-go means it's a variable rate. You just said it's a 30-year plan. That means that rate's going to go up for 30 years and people cannot pay. The other thing is that a lockbox, it's not a real lockbox. In accounting terms, what that means is a line item account on your general books that then becomes a chart account in the sub-ledger. There's no such thing as a lockbox. Mayor Parker also pointed out the fact that she has no idea how much of the percentage of the drainage fee would go into such a lockbox. She said she would collect and accrue on it. So Mayor Parker is going to be making interest off of our tax dollars. I strongly urge you to vote against it as well. People in the East End, Houston cannot afford it. There are children at Stevenson Middle School who are having to decide whether they want to pay $1 for a chocolate bar for a school fundraiser or paying $1 for school lunch money. Hey, this Proposition 1 is stealing lunch money from children in Houston's East End. We cannot do this.
I've developed a church and with some property, and I think I paid about $10,000 flood abatement fee already. And then, of course, I'm going to have to pay for a retention fund. And I think that's a very valuable contribution from my church to help the drainage situation. So I'm not sure why we need to pay more fees for drainage, because we have to do that already for development.
Well, let me suggest to you that maybe a piece of the discussion would be, if I told you that you could drive your car 150,000 miles, you may say you can only drive it to 125,000. We would probably both agree that between 0 and 100,000, you probably got to do some repair work to it. Somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000, you have to replace it. All right, and that's true of everything. I mean, you're going to rebuild things on your house. We've got to rebuild our streets and drainage. And it's not a snapshot of what anybody did today. It's how are the streets that come to your church going to function, not just the church proper, how are the neighborhoods going to function, and how are we going to pay for that? And that is the legitimate discussion. Unfortunately, I'm not the one that gets to call whether or not schools and churches represent. But it's somewhere between 6 to 7% of the total amount of money. If this fails for 6 or 7% of the money, and your parishioners and congregants don't get the benefits over the next 10 to 20 years, I think that would be unfortunate. Now, this lady raised questions about
why don't you do it this way? Why don't you be sure it passed by taking out the churches and the schools?
Well, what I'm saying to you is I'm not the one that can take them out, and council can't take them out between now and the election. Everybody can have that discussion with council after the election, and if there's a persuasive argument, it's not something that council couldn't do. The mayor has said she don't want to do it, and I will be legitimate tell you that she's not planning, but she's still got to get all the votes of council to establish the fee.
Would you address what Mike talked about why do we have a ballot measure about something that there is no plan for?
There is a plan.
Well, what is it if we don't know what it is?
Well, the actual implementation of the plan, I think, is legitimate to argue, okay, the implementation strategy is not there. I told you what the plan is we looked at how big is the problem in the city of Houston. And the problem in the city of Houston is bigger than one bond issue. It's bigger than 2 bond issues. It's bigger than 40 bond issues. And when we looked at it, we said, where are all the funding sources? And one thing we said is the city is spending $157 million a year paying the mortgage on water and sewer. Let's quit paying a mortgage. Let's take that $157 million and buy streets and drainage. That's the #1 component of this. We're going to convert to pay-as-you-go. The second thing is we wanted to be sure that we locked up Metro and federal money, because the city council has used Metro money that's supposed to be for mobility for things that might be questionable as to whether they're really mobility. We want them locked in the fund. The fourth piece is, in fact, the drainage user fee. The drainage user fee only generates about 40% of the total revenue through the 30 years of the program. Only about 40%. Residential participants will pay about 30% of the 40%. So this whole thing we're talking about, 12% of the money will come from your parishioners and congress. 60% of the money will come from these downtown office buildings, shopping centers, all those kinds of things. People say, well, this is sideways. Here's the analogy I'd use for it. You think the Chase Tower, which sits downtown on a 200 and 250-foot lot, it's on a block, you think it should pay the same amount for drainage as the Memorial City Mall? The Memorial City Mall sits on about 90 acres of land, generates way more water than the Chase Tower does. Where is the equity if you did it on any kind of ad valorem basis? That's why it's a huge fee. The amount of water that falls on the rooftop of the Chase Tower, runs into the street, is what they're going to pay on. They're not going to pay on how big their land value is or anything else.
When all of this was brought up in the planning stage, I guess probably of interest to all of us would be, were the schools, were concerns for the schools, charities, and churches addressed? And if they were, then what was the thinking about proceeding with those being taxed? Why would, and was there opposition anticipated? Did you think it wasn't any big deal? What? And fortunately, just as a taxpayer, since government hasn't exactly proved itself efficient at running its own business, I would rather know what the plan is all the way before I vote on something. Right. Because frankly, I don't trust the government to spend the money well.
You and I are in the same court on it.
So why would I vote for something I don't even know what they're going to do?
Well, that is the primary reason for having it be a charter change to have a dedicated fund. Because I, like you, don't trust government. So I wanted the fund set up for two specific purposes, street and drain, where it could not be converted. So that is the #1 greatest benefit of. Now, clearly, there was consideration for how would you fund street and drainage. And again, only 40% of the money comes from the drainage fee. 60% comes from existing sources. We did talk about how it could be done. We visited with administration and other players to try to figure out what would be the most equitable way. And the general consensus was water knows no boundaries. It doesn't know if you're 30 or if you're 65. Water doesn't know if you're a church or you're a Chase Tower. Water doesn't know if you're a Memorial City Mall or my house. But all of it counts in what goes in the drainage system. So the conclusion was the equitable way was if you generate water, you should pay.
Elmo and then John.
First of all, I want to thank you gentlemen for coming out and articulating this for us that we get an understanding, because what you're doing today, you're speaking out for all of us in these poor neighborhoods. First of all, the city has always benefited from the backs of poor. Now, in the old Sunnyside, we used to have an open district. We used to that. Matter of fact, when I go to Glory, the district's probably still be open. My problem is fee of tax. It is wrong, because anybody considering laying off teachers in our churches that are already struggling with people being able to pay the tithe and offerings, is that fair to them? My second question is, who's out there? I'm teaching. Yeah. But these are things that we need to know, and thank God we came to this meeting, because now Mr. Sullivan, where's he at? I kind of kept up with you on that. I was proud of you how you stood up, because we need more people standing up for poor people. Now this old Sunnyside is an area that is impoverished. It's always been overlooked. I want to see this community improve without more taxes, without more fees. Certainly we want to find other ways to do this rather than put more burden on people that are already struggling in the neighborhood.
I have a comment. Wait your turn. You gotta wait your turn.
You sit down.
Well, hey, you're third. Elmo, then John.
What if you can't pay it? What if you have people, older people that struggle, can't pay it? What if you have churches that struggle, that can't pay it? You put a lien against their property, you take their property. I mean, that's what happens, isn't it? If you can't pay this drainage fee, what happens?
Well, I would suggest to you it's going to probably be handled very similarly to the water and sewer bill. And clearly, I think that's a problem. Let me say one thing about Sunnyside. And when you understand the fee structure, you'll also understand that the fee is 3.2 cents per square foot for houses on curb and gutter streets, and it's 0.26 cents for houses on open ditches. And that is specifically to be more equitable to the people living in those neighborhoods, and to give a break to people that are in fact living on a lesser street. And when we looked at it, candidly, we thought that helped Sunnyside. We thought that helped a lot of neighborhoods, and that was absolutely deliberate because the law on drainage user fees doesn't let you exempt over 65. It doesn't let you exempt the handicapped. It doesn't let you exempt a lot of those kind of people. And we were looking for a way, by looking at the demographics of the city, to see where we could provide some equity and some relief and still balance the fund.